So here's a quick introduction to reporting on learning in Workday. So the first object that we need to deal with is learning content. So on learning content object is really where all your learning content and the master data around your learning content is stored, and you can access it, right? So the content type, status, locations, instructors, start date, end date, competency, and obviously the lessons that it's been split up into. Now you access this object with the data source learning content. If you want to have a look at actually Workday delivered report that uses this is, for example, browse learning content. So browse learning content is a search type report which lists the learning content, and then with faceted filters over here you can pick, the different kinds of to find out the related learnings. So if we right click on this report and have a look at it, you will see that it is based on that business object, the primary business object of learning content, the data source is learning content, and then on there use this filter. If you go onto the primary business object, you will see all the entire list of fields that you're able to report on. So really this data source and primary business object is for you to report on what learnings are available in your organization. This is probably the first thing you want to report about. Then once your organization's got all its learning set up, the next piece, of course, you want people to enroll into the learning. Now, the enrollment and learning is maintained on a learning enrollment object. However, there's this one step before that that is used is for required learning. Often the requirement is to report on the enrollments or completions of required learning. Now, the way Workday deals with this is via a campaign. So you can set up a campaign which sends out the learning, the required learning to workers, and then you have the enrollment on it. Now that data is stored on a business object called campaign record, and you access it via the data source campaign item records. Now I have a report here to have a look at this, and so for example here we have for different campaigns, you have the campaign item, you have your record status, and then you have the learning enrollment. So you can see that for these campaigns, you have enrollments for that for that campaign item. Now, obviously, if you didn't have it, if someone didn't enroll, so for example, over here, the notification has been sent, but no one's enrolled yet. So all of that, let's have a look at this report, and there's obviously one piece of data that I certainly want to add to this is the worker that's been sent, or two, as we're describing that. So yeah, so campaign item records and campaign record, and just doing a quick edit here and seeing the campaign item, and who's been sent to, of course, right? And so, see who's meant to be enrolling, right? So here we have our worker, and so we can say, okay, so you've seen where it is just a simple advanced report on those details. And so when you run here, so what you'd probably have is annual compliance. You'd probably have a campaign for your annual compliance, but my data is not that great, and so unfortunately I don't have much data there. But we can pick the different campaigns, and now obviously I would be able to see. For this one, no one that's certainly not involved. Yeah. All right. So there's your second step in the process is reporting on required learning via the campaign record. Now let's have a look at once the person responds to it and does the enrollment via a learning enrollment event, and there's approval statuses behind that. You have the learning enrollment to report on. Learning enrollment, you can report on obviously the worker, status, the learning units, completion dates, and completion status. So this is all your admin around learning enrollment. So let's have a look at that. So here we have a report on enrollment administration showing the worker, the registration status, the event, of course, that did this. So this is obviously still pending approval, and you got to hop onto this. event and see by whom it is still stuck, right? Or obviously you can bring that into the report to say, who is still stuck, about who is pending, right? So approval by manager, and this is the manager that still needs to approve. Here's the duration in minutes over here, start date, and then all the lesson tracking, right? So lesson title, completion status, completion date, and all sorts of stuff if you had all of that. So great object for you to report on your enrollment administration. And going on to the definition of the report, it's not all that difficult. So it's on learning enrollment. So you have different data source filters over here, but it's on the learning enrollment primary business object with all this data. And then on the lesson tracking over here, I can have lesson title and a lot more detail on the lesson itself, right? But I just took sample data that we'd want to be looking at for this. Now, there is another, as talking about KPIs that you'd want in this area. Obviously, there's a KPI is the amount of learning that have been consumed by my organization. Now, the way we do this, unfortunately, so via learning enrollment, you have the enroll content, which links back to the learning content, which has a duration in minutes on it. Yeah? So what you need to do to be able to do that analytic is bring that duration in minutes over here onto this learning enrollment with a calculated field, and then you're able to do that analytic. And here's an example of the analytic, right? So again, basic stuff. This is a quick introduction. So this basic training time by month there, here's your learning time. And then you can add, as you guys know, any number of view buys, right? I just picked supervisory organization. And you can add, you guys know, matrix reports and all the details. You can add much more data on that. You might want it by course, by manager, etc. You might even obviously want to put prompts in there. Now, as I was talking about that duration piece, here is my lookup related value, where I'm looking up on the learning enrollment, I'm looking up the field learning content and bringing back the duration in minutes for me to be able to do that analytic. All right. Now, often you would want to have to complete this whole cycle around learning enrollment. It links back to an object called learning course, and that's often used to say, hey, what are my popular courses? And then, so here we have a report, most popular media courses, customer service, key to success, that has many views and many, well, at least popular, right? And then this one is, as you see, this is on the data source courses on the primary business object of learning course. Yeah? And so it's got the data on popularity, right? So it says, view or enroll count for the learning content. Yeah? I'm not sure if you're going to use this object a whole lot. I would imagine very important. So what you'll be using is learning content to browse and understand what kind of learning content your organization provides. The campaign, in campaign record item, you'll be using to find out what campaigns have you sent out and who is actually enrolled. And obviously you probably want to send campaigns out for your required learning so you can see who's done their required learning. And then obviously most of your work will go around learning enrollment, where you find out who has registered for what course, when is it coming up, do I need to notify people, and how are they completing their learning. All right, well, I hope you found this quick introduction to learning useful. Again, these videos are to get you guys started, and then you're off to a good start at least, and you can discover the rest of the reporting by looking at the objects, looking at data that's on there, writing simple advanced reports to get the data out, and obviously we want you guys to be writing matrix reports and all that. All right, thank you very much.